Well, it's Friday again, and that means Questions with Father Luke. I'm Father Luke of Covenant Anglican Church in San Marcos, Texas, and today's question is your church Anglo-Catholic? Well, this is a very specific kind of question, and I would have to say that Anglo-Catholics are Anglicans, but not all Anglicans are Anglo-Catholics. The late J.I. Packer spoke of Anglicanism as being this kind of wide tent that housed high church Anglo-Catholics, low church evangelicals, and also broad church moderates and liberals. And while this creates some problems that are inescapable, it also creates some really beautiful opportunities for us as a church to demonstrate the faithful Orthodox unity without uniformity. Anglo-Catholicism is a tradition within Anglicanism that was heavily influenced by the Oxford movement of the 19th century. Now, it emphasized Anglicanism's ancient roots. There were bishops and people. Christianity was there well before the official Catholic Church was established in England, and so the church has a long standing. So they were like, hey, we have this long unbroken succession of bishops within our church, within the Church of England, and we desire now to conform to this ancient Western rites of worship, this theology, devotion, liturgy that was common in the Latin West prior to the Reformation. Now, this wasn't necessarily a desire to return to Rome, but they wanted to return to some of the things, the practices, attitudes, and theology that had been left out as the church had developed post-Reformation. Now, in Packer's description of this Anglican tent, right, he says that each of these groups tend to see that their particular version of Anglicanism as the truest form of Anglicanism, and so that kind of gets us in trouble. But he does say that over time, he's seen Anglo-Catholics become more evangelical, and evangelicals become a little more Anglo-Catholic or sacramental in its practice and theology. And so I would say Covenant is not Anglo-Catholic. We are definitely on the evangelical side of that spectrum, but somewhere in between low church evangelical, a little closer to evangelical, but we are embracing a sacramental worldview and approach to liturgy and the sacraments. And so if you were to visit us on a Sunday and you had never been a part of an Anglican church, you would come and you would probably think, oh, this feels and looks Catholic because there's liturgy, there's Holy Communion, I'm going to be wearing vestments. That means I'll wear this robe and I'll wear my collar, but over this, I'll have a white robe on and what's called a stole that signifies the changing of the seasons. And all of that is part of the influence of the Anglo-Catholic tradition within Anglicanism. But also, like good Protestants, you're going to see that the Word holds a really powerful place of importance within our service. We read a lot of Scripture. In fact, our worship service consists of two main parts. I think this is ultimately true for all Anglicans. This is a service of the Word, where the Bible is read, it's prayed, it's sung, it's preached, and then there's the service of the table, where we celebrate Christ's real presence really among us by faith through the bread and the wine. Now, the issue of Christ's real presence is something I think is fun to argue about, but it is a mystery. Some within our church and within Anglicanism say that Christ is really present in the elements themselves, that something mystical happens to the bread and wine, and others say no, that's something that by faith Christ really is present to us. The elements themselves don't change, but Christ is really present. Now, I think that there's a mystery here, and I'm okay with mystery. In fact, the 19th century evangelical Anglican J.C. Ryle once said, "We must be content to believe when we cannot explain, and to admire and revere when we cannot interpret." And I'm okay with that. I know that Christ really is present with us when we come to the table, and exactly how that fleshes itself out, I leave to him. I just know that by the Spirit, Christ is present among us. So we are not Anglo-Catholic. We are on the evangelical side of that. But I do think Packer is right, that evangelicals have become a little bit more Anglo-Catholic or sacramental in their worldview, while Anglo-Catholics have come a little bit more towards the evangelical side. So if you have thoughts or questions about liturgy, Anglican history, or theology, share them in the comment section, or better yet, join us on a Sunday and let's connect.